Imagine 3 weeks with no email. Sounds like a fantasy, doesn't it? But I think it's possible. Too often in my 190 consults I've done over the last 14 years, I've found exhausted passers who need a holiday more than I need an ice cream on a hot summer's day. Here's a recurring and I think dangerous theme that I've seen way too often: the inability of passers to take genuine time off. Too many pastors, I think, treat holidays as a luxury or worse, as a sign of weakness. But here's the hard truth: refusing to rest isn't just a bad habit, it presents a massive risk to your family and also a liability to your church. And I want to dismantle the guilt that you might feel about taking a break. I'll show you the science behind why your body needs it. But more importantly, I'm going to prove to you why your church gets healthier when you're actually not there. Plus, I'm going to give you a strategy to ensure your holiday is relaxing, not just stress in a different location. Hang around for that. You will reclaim your emotional energy with a really good holiday, but you'll also renew your leadership strengths and you'll come back way stronger than when you went on that holiday. Feeling stuck as a church leader? Growing your church doesn't have to be overwhelming. The Hub gives you step by step roadmaps to grow a healthy church in just 20 minutes a day. Join the hundreds of church leaders who found their breakthrough by accessing my 4 decades of ministry experience, which delivers genuine results. Start your free 14-day trial today at growahealthychurch.com/hub. So let's start with the engine room, your actual physical body. You can't lead a church if your physical vessel is falling apart. Let's look at some data here. The Framingham Heart Study, which is a massive piece of research, revealed that men who took regular holidays were 32% less likely to die from a heart attack. That's right, heart disease can be prevented through taking a break, taking a rest, taking a holiday. What about for women? Well, that number jumps to 50%. If you're refusing to take good, solid holidays, and I don't mean 3 days off here, 5 days off there, I mean a solid break, you know what? I think you're actually going to actively diminish your physical lifespan, or you'll put that at risk. An American Psychological Association study proved what common sense actually already tells us. Stress lowers dramatically when you escape the stress of the workday environment. I think we all know that anyway, but it's good to have research to back up the thought. A University of Vienna study found that workers had fewer physical complaints, fewer headaches, less back pain after a holiday. Remarkably, they still felt better 5 weeks later. Think about your sleep. Does ministry ever keep you awake? Well, that's a rhetorical question, isn't it? Of course it does. But the change of pace during a holiday, it's a combination of fresh air and that sense of dialing down. It resets your sleep patterns. Well, if you won't do it for yourself, at least do it for your arteries and for your body overall. But let's say you're fit as a fiddle. Why does your leadership need a holiday? Leaders get into ruts. Have you ever got into a rut? Well, I have. Routine just become monotonously bland and you're kind of in a rut. You can get discontented, you get grumpy, you get upset, and you begin to make bad decisions. Holidays break the monotony. They smash the rut. They kick the ends out of that grave that we call a rut. Bland evaporates when you trade a morning meeting for a lazy breakfast in bed. You know, your phone has an off button, right? You can use that off button during your holidays. Imagine taking your watch off and leaving it off for 3 weeks. Wow. Just leave it behind. You're going to escape that weekly grind. When we slow down, I tend to find that I think differently, and I think you do too. When you're working hard, you're in the office, you're on the road, you're visiting, you're preparing sermons, you kind of got the immediate in front of you. On holiday, you start to reflect almost intuitively on what's important, and that emotional energy begins to rebuild as well as your physical energy. Holidays fill your emotional tank because you do things you don't have time for during your work week. Afternoon naps, hanging around over a coffee at a cafe, and having a conversation that just kind of rolls on and you haven't got a watch on, so you don't worry about the time. You're not thinking about the school run, getting the kids and getting that organized. And you get to reclaim the emotional credit you've spent over the last 12 months. Here's a point that usually shocks, I think, board members and elders. Your church actually benefits from your absence. When you take a solid break, other people have to step up. Now, this is a benevolent pressure on you to focus on developing leaders, people who can MC a meeting, people who can preach, people who can do pastoral care, even in a crisis. So when you focus on that, well, you've got ready people trained to preach, to lead, to do pastoral care. And the church fares better when trained leaders are ministering rather than you doing everything yourself. And when you return, you come back to a team that is more confident and battle tested. Because a healthy church is not pastor-centric. It's the body. It's the body of Christ. And when a member can't call you for every minor crisis, they're forced to turn to the Lord and to all their friends within the church. It kind of helps damage the unhealthy Messiah complex. Well, I know you wouldn't have a Messiah complex, Pastor. I never had that. Yeah, right, John. Well, I think it does do some damage to that Messiah complex where everyone's dependent and needs me in every situation. When people discover the load you actually carry because they've had to carry it for a few weeks, they'll even have a deeper appreciation for you, Pastor. And you'll want to hear those words when you come back. It's so good to have you back because they realize, my goodness, there is a burden in ministry. But you only get that if you actually leave. Okay, you convinced? Well, how do you do this without the holiday itself becoming stressful? Well, a Dutch study found that some people weren't happier after a holiday because of travel stress. You know that thing you go through airports? Do you do that passport check? Where's my passport? Is it in my pockets, in my bag? Is the luggage delayed? So here's a tip for you that I think can actually lower your stress on a holiday. Try a staycation. Now, some people hate staycations, but stay with me. I think you can lower stress, and this is really helpful if you can't afford a large trip. I mean, Di and I, in over 40 years of ministry, we've only had, I think, if I think about it, I think we've only had 3 multiple week holidays overseas, maybe 4. I just thought of another one. In 40 plus years, we tend to holiday local, and at times with a 4-week holiday, which I get in Australia every year, we'll have 7 to 10 days away. The other 2 to 3 weeks, what do? We staycation. We get to see Perth and our city in a different way, and we'll do some day trips. And I remember one year we actually didn't have any money even to go away for that week. So my parents lived an hour away from us in a kind of coastal town. We rang them up and said, hey, you want to swap houses for a week? They came up and lived in the city. We went down to the coastal town for a week. Didn't cost us anything. It was a great thing. You know what? I think staycations are a real possibility if you give them some thought. But here's another tip for your pastor. Do not leave the day after you've preached if you're going to travel on a holiday. Spend the first 2 or 3 days. Now, pastor, here's a hot tip for you. If you're going to go traveling on your holiday, don't leave on the Monday after you've had a big Sunday. Spend the first 3 or 4 days unwinding at home. Diane used to say to me, we're not going away in the first week because you're so tired and grumpy. Get some energy and then we'll go away for a holiday. And we would get out of work mode, slow our pace. If you just rush them from the pulpit to the airport, my goodness, by the time you get there, you'll just be, oh, what am I doing? Where am I going? I just want to lie down and sleep for 2 days. Now, I think it's also good on a holiday to allow yourself some me time, to actually say to your spouse, hey, I'm going down to the cafe for a couple of hours. I'll do that today. Later in the day, I'll have the kids and you have some me time as well. I think this is important. It's been a huge part of our family holidays as well. Now, here's the golden rule of planning for pastors. Put your holidays on the church calendar before any other event. Lock them in. We used to do this ourselves and with our staff and say, line up your annual holidays. When you're going to have that 3-week break, and I believe in 3-week breaks, 3 weekends off, all in a row to allow your emotional energy to recover. And then prioritize the church around that. Now, you're obviously not going to take a holiday at Easter or over the Christmas services. There are times when you can't take a holiday as a pastor. But when you do that, you're prioritizing your health, your family, and also I think, your church. Now, if the thought of leaving makes you panic because no one else can do what I can do, you have a leadership pipeline problem. And I think you need to watch this next video where I introduce the 27 ways to build a leadership pipeline. This video series will help you build a team that allows you to take that 3-week break without your church falling apart. Check it out right now.